Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're looking at a pretty profound diagnosis from Richard Carlson's timeless work. Have you ever hit the end of the day and just felt utterly exhausted? Even if, well, nothing catastrophic actually happened. Carlson argues that we're drained because we literally treat our everyday lives like a giant emergency. We rush around, we look busy, we treat every little thing as a massive deal, and we just completely lose touch with the actual magic and beauty of life.
Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to honestly reflect for a second. Do you treat your life like a giant emergency? Are you constantly rushing, stressing, and treating everyday inconveniences, like a traffic jam, a slightly delayed flight, or, a slow line at the grocery store, as if they're literal life or death situations? Because when everything feels so urgent all the time, we just end up spending our lives dealing with one drama after another, and it completely drains our energy in the process.
So, how do we fix this? Well, it starts with an idea beautifully captured by the philosopher William James. He said, "The greatest discovery of my generation is that a human being can alter his life by altering his attitude." It's our deeply ingrained habits of overreacting and blowing things way out of proportion that are dragging us down. If we want to find peace, we absolutely have to shift our mindset from the inside out. We have to literally change how we react to the world.
Actually, let me share a fascinating story from the text that perfectly sets the stage for what this looks like in practice. So, Richard Carlson once asked author Dr. Wayne Dyer for a book endorsement but never heard back. 6 months later, a foreign publisher used an old Dyer quote on Carlson's new book without permission. Naturally, Carlson panicked, imagining this massive legal and professional fallout. He quickly sent Dyer a frantic, apologetic letter. And Dyer's response? He just wrote back, "Richard, there are two rules for living in harmony. Number one, don't sweat the small stuff. And number two, it's all small stuff." Let the quote stand. Dyer modeled the exact graceful, non-reactive behavior we're going to unpack today.
Which brings us to Arena 1, the mind, taming your internal reactions.
Imagine the snowball effect of negative thinking. So it's 2 a.m., you wake up and remember a phone call you need to make. Innocent enough, right? But then step 2, you start obsessing over tomorrow's entire to-do list. By step 3, you're mentally rehearsing a stressful conversation you might have with your boss. And boom, step 4, you are feeling completely overwhelmed and panicked. One innocent thought gathered momentum into full-blown anxiety. The trick here is to catch that mental snowball early, before it rolls down the hill, Notice what's happening in your head, stop the train of thought, and just go back to sleep. And this leads us to a wonderfully counterintuitive strategy. We're often taught in our society to proudly handle more pressure, to be tough, to increase our stress tolerance. But Carlson suggests we should actually lower our tolerance to stress. Crazy, right? But why? Because by doing this, we notice the stress early, when the snowball is still small. When we feel our minds moving a bit too quickly, we step back, take a breath, and regain our bearings before things spiral totally out of control. So, when you do step back, what do you actually do with those unsolved problems? You use the back burner. Think of a pot of soup on the stove. Sometimes holding a problem gently in your mind without actively analyzing it, just putting it on low heat, allows your quieter intelligence to blend a solution. Leaving a problem alone to simmer is often the absolute most effective way to solve it without burning yourself out. Moving on to Arena 2, the ego, letting go of the need to be right. Think about the stark contrast between the ego and the heart. The ego is frantic. It's always interrupting, correcting others, grabbing the glory. It takes an enormous amount of mental energy to be in two heads at once, tracking your own thoughts and trying to anticipate the person you're interrupting. Contrast that with the heart. The heart listens, lets others be right, and shares the glory. It's peaceful, and it actually builds relationships instead of turning everyday conversations into some sort of competitive sport. So the crucial point here is asking yourself this fundamental question. Do I want to be right, or do I want to be happy? Constantly correcting others takes massive mental energy, and honestly, it creates distance. Let's face it, everyone hates being corrected. But practicing allowing others the joy of being right, even if their facts are a little off, brings immediate inner calm. You don't have to sacrifice your deepest moral truths, obviously. But for the everyday conversations, just let others have the glory. Another really powerful way to bypass the ego is through what the book calls random acts of kindness and helping rituals. We're talking things like paying the toll for the car behind you, picking up litter in your neighborhood, sending an anonymous cash gift to someone struggling, or just writing a heartfelt letter of gratitude. But here's the magical rule, the secret sauce to this whole strategy. You have to do these things without telling anyone. Keeping it a secret prevents your ego from seeking praise and approval, and it allows you to retain the pure, unadulterated joy of giving.
And that brings us to Arena 3, the world, seeing the big picture. Let's look at the time warp strategy. Today, you might have a heated argument or miss a deadline, and it feels absolutely catastrophic. But a week from now, it's just a lingering annoyance. A month from now, you'll barely even remember it. And 1 year from now, you really have to ask yourself, does this even matter? By projecting today's frustration a year into the future, you can instantly reframe your perspective. You'll quickly realize that almost everything is, well, just small stuff.
Part of navigating the world peacefully is also surrendering to a pretty harsh truth. Life isn't fair. I know, it sounds like a total bummer, but accepting this is actually incredibly liberating. When we expect life to be perfectly fair, we just end up wallowing in self-pity, constantly complaining about everyday injustices. But surrendering to the fact that it's not meant to be fair stops the pity party right in its tracks. Instead, it generates proactive, genuine compassion for both ourselves and others, because we realize everyone is dealing with a unique and difficult hand.
To help with interacting with this unfair world, the text suggests becoming an anthropologist. Now, normally that's a scientist who studies human origins, but here it's redefined as a mental tool. It basically means being genuinely interested, without judgment, in the way other people choose to live and behave. When someone acts in a way that seems strange or frustrating to you, try replacing your annoyance with curiosity. Think, wow, how fascinating that they see the world that way, instead of reacting with, I literally can't believe they're doing that.
And consider the Buddhist metaphor of seeing the glass as already broken. Everything in life is in a constant state of change. Everything has a beginning and an end. If you expect your favorite drinking glass to eventually break, you aren't immobilized with shock or anger when it inevitably shatters. You're just grateful for the time you had with it. Applying this expectation of imperfection to the world around us really helps us make peace with reality and deeply appreciate the present moment.
Finally, let's look at the ultimate perspective, embracing our shared mortality.
John Lennon famously noted, "Life is what's happening while we're busy making other plans." So many of us live as if life is a dress rehearsal for some later date. We postpone our gratification, telling ourselves that we're going to relax and be happy someday when the to-do list is finally done and the house is finally clean. But living for that mythical someday means we completely miss out on the actual magic of our lives, our families, and our passions, which are happening right here, right now.
Which brings us to our final and perhaps most provocative question. The truth is, when you die, your in-basket won't be empty. There will always be more tasks, more phone calls, more unfinished projects. Someone else is just going to have to do them for you. So knowing that the work is never truly done, what will you do with the time you have left today? Are you going to spend it rushing, stressing, and treating everything like an emergency? Or will you choose kindness, patience, and inner peace? The choice is entirely yours. Thank you for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it brought you some valuable perspective, and I'll catch you next time.